Hi to all of you. Today we are going to see another important topic in general medicine, which is obesity. So what is obesity? Obesity is actually an increase in the adipose tissue mass in our body or an increase in the fat mass in our body. So why is this obesity so important? We have been hearing multiple people speaking to us about obesity. So obesity is actually the cause for multiple diseases which we are seeing in the renal system or in the cardiovascular system or neurological system today. So what happens in obesity is, normally any human being, we take in some amount of food. So this food, depending upon our appetite, we take in some amount of food. This food is metabolized by the human body for its own multiple purposes, and whatever is remaining is going to get stored as adipose tissue. So if we are going to take two factors in understanding obesity, if we are going to take more amount of food because of an increase in appetite or greed, then our body is going to produce more amount of adipose tissue. Whatever is extra from what the body needs to maintain its daily functions or exercise or your day-to-day activities, it is going to store it as adipose tissue. So the body has certain inbuilt mechanisms to prevent this adipose tissue from getting accumulated. One is controlling your food intake habit, that is controlling our appetite. And the other one is the way in which the energy that reaches the body, the food, is metabolized, and how that metabolized energy is used by the body is also another mechanism in which body tries to prevent this adipose tissue formation. So why is this adipose tissue formation actually occurring? Suppose I have to go on a fast for 1 week. I'm stuck in some place. I don't have any access to food. Then this adipose tissue is going to provide all the energy that is needed for me. Initially, we needed this adipose tissue because we used to have periods when we had famines, and our body reserves of adipose tissue only provided sufficient amounts of energy for us to go about our day-to-day activities and to survive during these periods of famine. So our body always has a habit of storing extra energy as adipose tissue. But over the times, now currently we don't go into periods of famine, and so this adipose tissue keeps on getting accumulated, and our adipocytes, or the cells which are seen in the adipose tissue, have multiple ways in which they harm us. We will see about how this adipocyte harms us, how our body tries to regulate our appetite or food intake, how our body tries to utilize all the energy that is provided to us, and how this adipose tissue is going to cause multiple systemic damages in our body. First, we'll see about regulation or prevention of obesity, what our body tries to control appetite and how it metabolizes or uses the energy that it takes in the form of food. So regulatory mechanisms, I told you first is food intake. So our body tries to control our appetite. How does it control our appetite? By the hypothalamus, which is there in our brain, our body tries to control our appetite. Ventropostromedial nucleus and lateral nucleus of the hypothalamus. Ventromedial nucleus and lateral nucleus of the hypothalamus is concerned with appetite. How is the hypothalamus told that we are taking more amount of food or this amount of food is sufficient for us? We have neural afferents, metabolites and hormones which go and tell the hypothalamus sufficient amount of food is there, tell this person to stop eating. So what are the neural afferents which are going to tell the hypothalamus? Those are your vagal afferents. Where are the vagal afferents found? All along our GIT, in the intestines, in the stomach, we have vagal parasympathetic nerves. Those are your vagal nerves. They take stimuli. Whenever food passes through your stomach or through your intestine, these parasympathetic cells get activated, and these vagal afferents carry these to the hypothalamus, tell the hypothalamus sufficient amount of food is passing through the GIT, so tell the person to stop eating. Metabolites. Suppose I have lots of glucose. Where will I get glucose from? So if I have adequate amount of food, I am going to produce adequate amount of glucose. So if I have large amounts of glucose, it indirectly means I have sufficient amount of energy to carry out whatever processes I need to carry out. So when there is increase in the amount of glucose, that glucose as a metabolite will tell my hypothalamus to stop eating. We have certain hormones which control the hypothalamus. Multiple hormones are there. I have just made a list of the important hormones. Leptin. Leptin is a hormone which is produced by the adipose tissue itself. What does this leptin do? This leptin tells your brain to decrease food intake. So it is a protective factor. So does it mean that our adipose tissue itself is indirectly telling us to cut down food intake? I told you leptin is produced from the adipose tissue. So whenever you have increased amounts of adipose tissue, you expect an increase in the amount of leptin. And this leptin is going to try to prevent food intake, to prevent increase in the adipose tissue. So this is like a feedback mechanism in itself. But obesity, if it is acting in a perfect way, then we should have nothing called as obesity. How it gets deranged, we will see on in the later slides. Insulin. Insulin, when you have large amounts of insulin, you are going to have decrease in the amounts of glucose. So when you have decrease in the amount of glucose, what is your body going to sense? You need more amount of food. So it is going to make you to eat more amount of food. Cortisol is another substance which is going to increase your food intake. Gut peptides like ghrelin, GLP-1 or glucagon-like peptide 1 are the gut peptides. GLP-1 is important in that it is used therapeutically also to control obesity. So GLP-1 tries to prevent us from taking more amount of food. That is, it prevents obesity. Okay. So next we are going to see about how the hypothalamus controls our food intake behavior. So hypothalamus produces certain hormones which are going to tell you take more amount of food, or they are going to increase your appetite and you are going to take more amounts of food. These are neuropeptide Y, melanocortin hormone and agouti related peptide AGRP. These are going to tell your body to increase your appetite. And the hypothalamus has another hormone called the alpha melanocyte stimulating hormone, which tells your body stop it, sufficient food you have already taken, so stop taking food, or it tells your body to reduce its appetite. So you have factors in the hypothalamus being released by the hypothalamus which stimulate your appetite and also inhibit your appetite. Other than from the hypothalamus, our body also produces orexins and endocannabinoids. These are substances which are going to increase your appetite, and we have certain other substances like CART, GLP-1 and serotonin which is going to decrease your appetite. These are produced from multiple tissues in the body.